If you've ever done a bunch of crazy stuff to impress a man and then realized, oh my god, I'm a badass, I can do way better and don't need him, then you will love this folktale. A spooky Irish ghost story called The Blood Drawing Ghost, with one of my favorite, most hardcore heroines ever. A young man is courting 3 women at once, Mary, Peggy, and Kate, and his sisters are like, well, which one are you gonna pick? And he's like, I'll tell you as soon as someone in the parish dies, then I'm gonna put him to the test. 3 weeks later, a dude dies, and John, that's the guy who's trying to decide between these women's name, goes to the dude's grave, sticks his own blackthorn stick in the grave, and then goes to a public house where the 3 girls are all hanging out. He's like, hey ladies, I put my stick on the grave of the man they buried today, and whichever of you goes and gets my stick for me, I'll marry you. Mary's like, hell no. Peggy's like, I'm not going either. And then Kate's like, all right, I'll go get it. Kate walks 3 miles to get to this grave, grabs the stick, but then a voice from the tomb says, please leave that stick and open my grave for me. She's horribly afraid, but feels compelled, and she lifts off the coffin lid. The dead man's like, carry me into town, and she's too scared to say no, so she does. It's nighttime now and everyone's asleep, and as she's taking him through the town, he's like, go in this house. No, wait, not that one. They have clean water inside. And then he keeps not wanting to go in the houses of people who have clean water, but finally he gets to a house where the people don't have clean water, and he's like, take me in that house. So they're in these people's house. The dead man's like, fix me something to eat and drink. And she's like, okay. So she fixes him some oatmeal that's in the house, but then she's like, I have nothing to give you to drink, but they're dirty water. He's like, that's cool. Bring me a dish and a razor. And she does. And he's like, all right, take me upstairs. There's 3 young men asleep, the sons of the men in the house, and the dead man makes her hold a dish while he slits their throats with the razor and drains their blood. The ghost points at the blood in the bowl and he's like, give them that in exchange for their dirty water. Meaning if there had been clean water in the house, he wouldn't have been able to murder them, but he did. But then he magically makes the wounds on their throat look like it isn't there, so no one can tell why they have died and suddenly have no blood. Then, to get even grosser, he says, all right, take this blood, mix it with oatmeal, and I'm gonna eat some and you're gonna eat some. So she does that, he eats his oatmeal, but she only pretends to eat it and like hides her food in a handkerchief because, bleh. He's like, all right, take me back to my grave now. And she's like, it actually killed me bringing you in here these 3 miles on my back. No, thank you. And he's like, you just ate food, so you've got strength now. And she wants to pretend she ate it. So she's like, okay. So she takes him back out to the grave. But on the way, she's like, hey, is there a way to bring those dudes back to life? And he's like, the only way to bring them back to life is to feed them food mixed with their blood. But we ate all that. She's like, yeah, right, and keeps carrying him. And they pass through this field, and he's like, hey, by the way, this field, no one alive knows this, but there's tons of gold hidden under this field, and if you had ownership of this field, you and the people you love would like never want for anything ever. And she's like, also interesting information. The cock crows just as she gives him to his grave, and he's like, oh, I would have dragged you in the grave with me if that cock hadn't crowed, but it did, so now I can't touch you anymore, thank you, and goes back to being dead. Kate gets the blackthorn stick, goes home, and when she gets home, her sister's like, oh my god, you've been out all night, mom's gonna kill you. And she's like, never mind with you, I'm freaking tired, and goes to sleep. Her mom wakes her up in the morning and she's like, lazy girl, get up, 3 people were murdered in town, we're all going to the wake. And the girl's like, all right. So she goes to the wake and she goes up to the parents and she's like, hey, if someone could bring your sons back to life, what would you give them? They're like, anything. And she's like, okay, I can bring them back to life, but in exchange I want to marry your oldest son and I want a deed to the field that you own back there, the one with the hidden gold, made out to me for me to own. They're like, absolutely. But she's so smart and hardcore. She's like, no, but for real, I want you to give it to me in writing that it belongs to me, whether or not the son, when I bring him back to life, wants to marry me, I still want the field. So they give her the deed to the field. She goes into the room where the 3 youths are lying and she secretly feeds them the food that she kept in her handkerchief. All at once, they all come back to life. And she goes out and opens the door and she's like, okay, they're alive now. There is joyous celebration. And then later that day, she runs into John and he's like, all right, Kate, did you get me my stick? And she says my favorite line in this whole story, find your own stick and never speak to me again the rest of your life. She goes back to the family and she's like, all right, I'm here for what you owe me. And they're like, all right, here's the deed to the land. And hey, oldest son, you want to marry her? And he's like, oh my God, yes. And she's like, yeah, I thought so. They get married and then she takes her husband out to that field and she's like, all right, get your men out here, start digging up this field. He's like, why? This field is worthless. And she's like, just dig. And then he does. And they find all the gold. And he's like, oh my God, you're awesome. And she's like, I know. They lived very happily and very rich and bought several farms and built several fine houses and lived happily until they died. Because that's what happens when you marry a badass. No word on what happened to John. Probably still trying to make some girl go get his stick for him. Check out my podcast, my book, all the links in the bio, and happy Halloween.